Hello and welcome to yet another terrifyingly awesome, marvelous video. There's something special in store for horror fanatics today. If you're someone who loves a great horror movie with amazing twists and a unique punch, then you know that A24 has you all covered. The company behind some of the major hits of all time, such as Midsummer, Hereditary, and Bodies, A24 is one of the biggest and hard-hitting film distribution and production companies in the world. They never fail to disappoint us common folk who live and breathe horror. In today's video, we're going to explore some of the most grotesque monsters in the A24 horror universe. These monsters range from mythological figures that look like they just stepped out of Tartarus to absolutely terrifying creatures that will make your nights sleepless. So without further ado, let us dive right into the world of some horrific creatures. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The Monster, from the film The Monster 2016. When we think of horrifying supernatural creatures that scare the bejesus out of us, the most common name that comes to our minds is a monster. Well, the first entity that we're going to explore is literally called The Monster. The 2016 film of the same name, directed by Brian Bertino, gave us a monster that has a personality that is equally terrifying as its appearance. Played by Chris Webb, one of the first scary features that you would notice about the monster is its eyes. They are as white and blank as our faces and minds that we cross paths with such a creature. Apart from that, the monster has reddish-yellow fangs, and they are so huge and sharp that a chef's knife is nothing in front of it. We have all seen how chefs chop things at 10 times speed. Now imagine being chewed on like that as if you were on the menu for tonight. That is the primary killing technique of the monster. It also has extremely long limbs, and they look like bats' wings since there is skin attached from its hands to its legs. Luckily for Kathy and Lizzie, the film's protagonists, the monster can fly like a bat. Otherwise, I certainly believe it would have been impossible to kill. The monster is also often known as Black Reptilian or the Devil simply because it is that creepy and downright evil. Now, aside from its deadly fangs, it can also use its sharp claws to kill its target. But before killing, it likes to play around with its prey, where it torments them by chasing and growling at them. So it is basically like people seasoned with a bucket full of fear. And this can be seen in the film where the monster runs after Jesse and Kathy for a good amount of time before finally finishing them off. And killing is not the only thing that satisfies it. It then proceeds to eat its kill, which was evident in the way it devoured Jesse alive. So just like most monsters, even this monster does not really need a reason to kill. It is just its passion, since it likes to put its teeth to good use by chewing the flesh of people. The only weakness the monster has is towards direct bright light, which in the end leads to its demise.
I don't know if I close my eyes. I can almost...
Wallace Brighton, Walrus Transformation, Tusk 2014. In the category of disturbing metamorphoses, I believe the film Tusk even left Franz Kafka's novella Metamorphosis in the dust. Directed by Kevin Smith, this horror comedy sends shivers down the spine. The character of Wallace Brighton, which was played by Justin Long, undergoes a forced metamorphosis into a walrus-like human creature at the hands of the evil Howard Howe, played by the late Michael Parks. This transformation is really grotesque, but it also has symbolic undertones that stress the film's theme of humanity's darker side. Wallace was just an arrogant podcaster with a love for making fun of other people's misfortune. He decided to go all the way to Canada to interview an old sailor named Howard Howe, our not-so-lovely villain, who likes to play around as if it were Frankenstein. Unfortunately for Wallace, things did not go as planned because Howard drugs him and turns him into a walrus. Now, you might think it is a weird choice to make, but not for old Howard. His fixation on the walruses began because he was saved by one. I mean, I do not get his reasoning, but I guess if you're saved by someone or something, you start to love them. Who knows? I personally would have given the walrus a bucket of fish and call it a day. So after he was shipwrecked and floating on the ocean for several days, he was rescued by a walrus whom we know as Mr. Tusk. Yeah, I definitely would have spent a couple of dollars on some sardines. This distorted sense of love and obsession with Mr. Tusk, who is probably enjoying heaven with a possible Mrs. Wallace's Tusk leads how to try and create the animal all by himself. Wallace just gets caught in the crossfire pretty badly. Howard should have probably seen a therapist about losing a loved one instead of going all mad scientist mode. The whole process of Wallace's forced transformation into a walrus is deeply unsettling, and it will make you want to puke. I certainly did. There's surgery performed on Wallace by cutting off his legs, and instead of the normal human legs, Howe gives him these fake walrus flippers made of actual human skin. Talk about creepy, huh? Howe also replaces his arms with similar ones and then goes ahead to fit a horrific walrus suit on his body. This strips Wallace of all his humanity and completely turns him into a revolting and monstrous version of the animal. In addition to the physical changes, Howe also operates on Wallace's throat to such an extent that it only allows him the capacity to make whale sound. The result is a sickening clash of the two species in which Wallace is degraded beyond humanity and is simply a tortured shell of flesh and raw misery. In this case, Wallace changes to such a degree that it goes beyond the physical aspect to the mental one, since he can no longer speak, think, or have any sense of himself. Howard's perverted vision of Mr. Tusk comes to life at last. Someone should have gotten the man a walrus or a therapist at least.
You must seek me out yonder, to the Green Chapel, 6 nights to the north.
The Green Knight, from the film of the same name, The Green Knight, 2021. Next up in our list, we have a rather morally ambiguous character. The character of the Green Knight in David Lowry's movie of the same name blends nature, morality, and chivalry, just like most of the Arthurian legends. The introduction of the Green Knight, as well as the surrounding narrative of the film, is something of an adventurous reconceptualization of the character. As most of you might be aware, his tale is old as time, since we know the Green Knight from the poem titled Sir Gawain and the Green Knight from the Arthurian lore. But there are a few differences between the original Green Knight and Laurie's version of the Green Knight, which was brought to life on screen by Ralph Ineson. Now, the form of the Green Knight in the film is so disturbing that it gave me nightmares for days. It looks as if he took a bath in moss-filled ponds with a bunch of green bluish wood and stones. In simpler words, he was greenish in color, his skin has a bark-like texture, and his body is covered with roots and creeping vines. Now, I know that you're wondering, well, no, he's not Groot. It looks more like a terrifying grandpa of Groot. To make things more realistic, you can also hear the creaking sounds he makes while moving around, which makes him look as if a forest wants to take a walk in the woods for a change. In the original context, the epic poem, The Green Knight, is depicted as a magical entity similar to the film's character who challenges Gawain's sense of chivalry. But in the poem, we find out his true identity to be that of Sir Bertilac, who is basically brainwashed by Morgan Le Fay to test King Arthur's knights with a game. I would have aced it if the game was hide and seek, but Morgan's game was not that simple. Now, how the poem is written is more like a medieval romance, with its neat conclusions and an amusing mocking challenge of knightly behaviors, rather than English Edwardian poetry, an era that looked more into society. On the contrary, in the film, Laurie completely disrupts the lightness of the poem and focuses on its dark, burdened, and somewhat unclear edges. The Green Knight in the film possesses an archaic role, one who is more connected to earth, time, and death. Although even in the film, his character has challenged Sir Gawain, the theme is a lot more eerie and dark. Laurie essentially creates an atmosphere of unsettling deaths and struggles within Gawain's character and shows the way a man clashes with nature. So, this Green Knight manages to successfully progress from a character of harmless naivety to a metaphor of the cyclical nature of existence and pushes Gawain as well as us to look for answers to the questions of life, death, and even honor in a world where there are no certainties and no straightforward moral answers to the questions posed. A remarkable reconceptualization indeed. Black Phillip, The Witch, 2015. The 2015 film The Witch, directed by Robert Eggers, gave us a monster that we might be slightly familiar with. If you remember ever watching the TV show Riverdale, then this monster will definitely remind you of the Gargoyle King, since both have similarities to goats. Not the greatest of all time, but the animal goat, of course. It is a goat because Black Phillip is also known as Satan, Lucifer, or the devil. He takes the form of a billy goat because he's literally the mortal form of Satan. Black Phillip is not the only villain in this film, but he is definitely the most terrifying one. Now, the film begins with a struggling Puritan family as they manage to run a farm and raise 5 kids. For the majority part, we only know Black Phillip as their black goat, whom the twins love spending time with, but soon enough, mysterious events starts happening related to witchcraft. And as we reach the film's climax, we find out that Black Phillip is actually the devil. He makes the oldest known offer in the book to Thomasin, which is asking her to sign her name in his book, which is basically her soul in exchange for releasing her from her guilt-filled life. He is seen seducing Thomasine when he says, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" Through this temptation, we finally get to see the true nature of Black Phillip come to life as he tries to lure Thomasine away from her Puritan values. The film gives us a very accurate description of Black Phillip. Before tempting Thomasine, he was constantly manipulating the twin. Of course, he did this so that he would be able to gain Thomasine's trust and lure her over to his side. He is the master who did not manipulate just the twins, but pretty much their entire family. Even the witch in the film was tormenting them based on the instructions Black Phillip gave. All of these aspects about the devil in the form of a goat have been known to the world for centuries because, in English traditions, goats have always been connected to sinister things. I just know that they are damn delicious. The most interesting fact for all horror fanatics to note would be Black Phillip's eyes. Goats have rectangular pupils, but our big black guy had round pupils, so of course, that gave us a hint that he might be something else. Kudos to you if you noticed this hint while watching the film. I'm still wondering how no one in the film ever noticed that. The Mermaid, The Lighthouse 2019. When we think of mermaids, we automatically think of rainbows and sunshine in our head. But this mermaid is the stuff that nightmares are made of, my horror fans. Another fan-favorite film by Robert Eggers, The Lighthouse, gave us an entirely different description of a mermaid, although not in looks. Played by Valerica Karaman, there is no doubt that this mermaid is exceptionally beautiful. She soon gets the attention of a rather charming man, our protagonist Ephraim Winslow. Her presence soon causes Winslow to have visions and dreams of her. These visions are so detailed that he even dreams of having sex with her. Soon after, he finds her unconscious by the shore and gropes her. She suddenly wakes up and lets out a terrifying and menacing cry. Of course, Winslow runs away in fear, but this is not where it ends for him. She goes on to haunt Winslow to the point that he's deeply affected psychologically. Now, the film leaves it to us to figure out the truth about the mermaid, but there are two possible explanations. One, it could be that she is just a figment of his imagination and appears in his sexual fantasies since he lives on a remote island all alone with just another man. Another possibility could be that mermaids are usually known to be sirens too, so perhaps she is a siren and telepathically invades his mind and makes him see visions of her to drive him over the edge. Which one do you think is the best option?
Riches shall be thine, but
Marvelous verdict. And that marks the end of yet another marvelous video. It was really terrifying to take a look at the horrifying universe of A24. All of these monstrous creatures have given me new materials for nightmares. There goes my sleep schedule for the week. As our adventure through the world of A24 draws to a close, we hope you are as excited as we are for the future of the A24 universe. So, stay tuned for more electrifying adventures in the captivating world of horror. What movie from the list do you love the most? Was there anything specific about the movies that captured your curiosity? Let us all know about it in the comments down below. And as always, if you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. It means the world to us when you help us grow. Until next time, guys, it's goodbye for now. Have a good one.